Welcome back to my channel. Today is day 2 of Vlogmas, and we're going to do a little bit of a December TBR. So I think what I'm going to do is talk about not just what I plan to read, but also a little bit of my plans for December Vlogmas and some of my goals for going into 2026, which is coming so quickly. So I'm trying to solidify all of my 2026 reading goals, because I think it's going to be an amazing year of reading and growing and just having a good time enjoying books, which are my favorite thing in the world. So I thought I would start this video off by reflecting on the past year, just really the numbers that I managed to read, which honestly is always impressive to me, but also just the quality of my year overall as far as reading goes. I think that my reading habits have changed so much over the past year, and especially in the last few months as I've started reflecting a little bit more and being a little bit more mindful about how I'm reading, what I'm reading, and just the quality and quantity of books that I'm reading. So to start, this year I have added hundreds of books to my physical TBR. However, I've only read a few off of my physical TBR, and to me that's starting to become a bit of a problem. I love having books, and I am still of the firm belief that collecting and buying and thrifting books is a whole separate hobby to actually reading books. I enjoy being surrounded by books. I like when I can look around the room and everywhere I look, there are books. And in this room, everywhere I look, there are books. I only have this one Billy bookshelf from IKEA. I don't have any other bookshelves, so I have book stacks pretty much all over my room. There is book stacks on the dressers, on the desk, in the closet, next to my bed. My bookshelf is next to my bed, and I just want to be a little bit more mindful when I'm shopping and reading, because my book collection is growing faster than I can possibly read it, and that's an okay thing, but I just don't want it to get out of control. I just don't want to buy books just to buy books anymore, so I'm being more intentional. There's a couple ways that I'm doing that. The first being that I am unhauling some books, which is hard for me to do. It's hard for me to pull a book off my shelf that I haven't read and get rid of it, either sell it or drop it in a little library or donate it. That's very hard for me. It's something that I have to come to terms with, but I have several books that have been on my shelves for 3 or 4 years that I have never felt the urge to pick up and read, and it's kind of wasteful to have books like that on my shelf. Now, there are a few exceptions to those. I have a lot of classics. Some of them I am not super motivated to read, but I think it's important to own classics and to have them in your collection, especially I have kids in the house who are going through school. They're going to be reading some of these books for their curriculum. So I think classics are just important in general to have, especially lately with all of the book bannings. So classics will always be something that I collect, and maybe won't necessarily read or reread the ones that I read long ago in childhood. That's an exception to the rule. The other exception to my rule is books that I read in childhood and adolescence. So I have collected a lot of books that I probably am not going to read. Books like the Ugly series or the Divergent series, Simon versus the Homo sapiens, and books of those nature. They're teen books. I will probably never reread those, but I don't have my collection of books from when I was younger, and it's sort of been healing to rebuy some of these. And maybe one day my kids will want to read some of the books that I read as a teenager. So I have been collecting those and not adding them to my physical TBR so that I can have them on my shelf as sort of a nostalgic thing. They're more of a collection than something that I'm physically going to read. Apart from getting rid of books and taking books off my shelf that I know I'm not going to read, I have been trying every month to read books off my physical TBR. I am not always successful in this, but in 2026, it will be a priority to read books off my TBR every single month. Even if that means I don't read a book on my Kindle or listen to an audiobook the entire month, I will read at least one book off my shelf every single month. I am committed to that, and I think that I can do that. It's not a huge commitment. It's not too much to ask, and I think it's really important that I do dedicate space and mindfulness to reading off my physical TBR. And the third way is sort of two-pronged, but number one is I don't ever buy books brand new that I haven't read. I will only buy a brand new book if it's something that I've already read and enjoy and want to have on my shelf. And the second way is that when I am thrifting for books or buying books secondhand or picking up books at a little library, I am only picking up books that I actually want to read and have actively thought about reading before. As I've grown my book collection, especially at the very beginning, I was just picking up any book I saw that I recognized the author or the title of. I bought it and I brought it home and I put it on my shelves. This means I have books by Colleen Hoover on my shelves, and I don't think I'll ever read a Colleen Hoover book. I have books like the After series by Anna Todd, which I don't believe I'll ever read, but it was a recognizable book that I thought I should get because everyone I know has read it. And these are the types of things that I'm not reaching for anymore. I'm being a lot more mindful about what I'm picking up and not buying just to buy. I love when I find something at a thrift store that is a popular book, or that is a popular author, or it's big on TikTok, or that I've seen other people talk about or read. But I'm going to stop doing that and only pick up books that I personally have thought about reading in the past or know that I will read at some point eventually. This has been one of the hardest parts of this sort of mission to alleviate my physical TBR, but I think also one of the more important ones is just sort of looking at a book on a shelf and saying, you know what, no, you don't need to come home with me. So that is sort of one of my really big goals for 2026, is reading down my physical TBR. All of the books on my TBR for December are from my physical TBR, with the exception of two, one of which is a e-arc and the other is a physical library book. Another big goal that I have for 2026 is not to focus on the numbers. I'm actually setting a very low reading goal for me at 50 books for the entire year. I might do 52 just to make it an even 52 for the 52 weeks. However, in the past, my reading goal has been 100, 150, 200, and it is just not sustainable for me to read that many books in a year. Now, if I do read that many books in a year organically, that's great. But when I set my first reading goal back in 2023, I set it to 25 books, and I surpassed that. I read 66 books in the year of 2023, and I was really excited. So come 2024, I set my reading goal to 100. Well, in the first few months of the year, I did 100 novellas in 100 days, and I very quickly surpassed that. So that when 2025 came around, I originally had set my reading goal this year to 250 books, which is an insane number of books to set a goal towards, and I then dropped it down to 175, which I don't believe that I'm actually going to reach. I am around 160 something right now, and I don't believe that I'm going to read 15 books in the month of December. Now, a lot of the books that I read this year were novellas. I did do another 100 novellas in 100 days series, which I really enjoy doing because I can read a novella in an hour or two in the morning. However, am I going to do 100 novellas in 100 days in 2026 again? I don't know, because it's such a big undertaking. And while I feel so accomplished that I actually finished that goal and saw it all the way through to the end, I don't know if I want to put that kind of pressure on myself when it comes to reading anymore, which I talked a little bit in my video yesterday. I just want to be more intentional and find a love for reading again. So my reading goal is going to be much lower, much more sustainable, a book a week. And if I happen to read more, then great. But I want it to be organic. I want it to be because I'm enjoying it so much that I just can't put down a book, and not that I'm picking up books so that I can reach this arbitrary goal that I set for myself. And then I really only have 3 bookish goals in my reading in the month of 26. The first, of course, is that reading at least 1 book a month off my physical TBR. The second is that I want to try and read either a classic or a nonfiction book every single month. These can be interchangeable, and yes, I do count celebrity memoirs as nonfiction. So either I'll read a memoir, a nonfiction book that is educational or true crime or something in that vein, or a classic. Every single month I will read at least one of those. The third goal is that I want to do a reread of one of my 5-star reads every month in the year of 2026. I want to do this because, again, I have not been reading intentionally in the last couple years. I've been reading more so that I can reach goals and tick off boxes, because I feel FOMO. I feel that I've missed out on so much for all those years that I wasn't reading actively, and I'm just kind of over that. And so I want to go back and reread those books that I claim to love that I can't remember a single detail of. I don't want to be like that anymore. So I'm going to be more mindful and intentional with these rereads. I will be annotating, I will be making notes, I will be tabbing, and really digesting and understanding and diving into these books that I love. Those are my 3 monthly goals for 2026. And let's wrap up this video, which is going to be so long because I can't stop talking, with my actual physical TBR for the month of December. As I said, I had one ebook that wasn't on my physical TBR. Of course, that was The Arc Duke by Jessica Peterson. I'm currently reading Sawyer by Jessica Peterson. It is an ebook, so that I can be prepared to read the Duke arc, which I believe comes out tomorrow. So I'm kind of trying to get through that one pretty quickly so that I can be in on the hype of the release day. And then for the physical books, I have one library book, and it is The Favorites by Lane Fargo. I'm very excited about this book, and I think there's no better time to read a book about a ice dancing couple than Christmas season. Ever since I heard about this, it intrigued me. I've always been a really big fan of Scott and Tessa, the Canadian ice dancing pair, and I always thought they would be such a cute couple. And so this book seems right up my alley because it is about 2 ice dancers who have a very tumultuous relationship, and I am really excited about this. So happy that this finally came through with my holds at the library, and I can't wait to read it. And all of the other books on my December TBR are Christmas books. I do plan on doing some Christmas reading vlogs that are going to be nice and cozy. I will probably be annotating and really diving into these books. So I'll quickly show you what each book is, and we'll talk a little bit about them. First up, we have The Christmas Fix by Lucy Score. I really think Lucy Score knows how to write a very small town romance, and this seems to hit the mark. It is about a single dad and town manager and a reality TV show star, and they seem to butt heads, and you know, enemies to lovers is a thing, and it's Christmas time, and this seems very Hallmark movie to me, big city girl and small town single dad. I think Lucy Score writes such fun romance books. They're very heartwarming and they make you feel good, and that is exactly the kind of energy we need during Christmas season. Up next, I have Window Shopping by Tessa Bailey. If you've been here for a minute, you know that I think Tessa Bailey is hilarious. Her books are extremely silly and they're kind of ridiculous, but I think that sometimes you just need a ridiculous romance to settle in with and have a good time with. I don't think every book needs to be heavy and every book needs to be super serious. I think sometimes you can just have fun with it. And I really like Tessa Bailey books for that. At first, I will be honest, I didn't think I was gonna like Tessa Bailey books at first because they don't take themselves seriously, but that's why I love Tessa Bailey books. This is a New York sort of Christmas romance, and I think I'm gonna have fun with this one. This is probably gonna be like middle of the month when I get into a bit of a slump, because Tessa Bailey can get me out of a slump. She's so ridiculous and so silly, and her books are always so funny, and I'm really excited. Up next is How My Neighbor Stole Christmas by Megan Quinn. I have never read a book by Megan Quinn, but last year this book was everywhere. All over my For You page, this book was everywhere, and I missed out on the hype on it. So when I saw it when I was thrifting a couple months back, I picked it up because I said, I want to read this book at Christmas time. Don't know much about it. I think it's like an enemies to lovers type situation. How My Neighbor Stole Christmas, obviously a play on the Grinch. I heard there's some very questionable scenes involving candy cane. So, I don't know. We're gonna dive into this and have some fun with this one. And then I have The Royal Holiday by Jasmine Guillory. I have quite a few Jasmine Guillory books, and I've never read any of the ones that I have, but I'm very intrigued by this because it's about 2 people who are working in the palace during the Christmas season and they fall in love. It looks like a very short little read, but I think it will be interesting, and it's very different than the other ones. It's not like a little small town Hallmarky thing. It's like a royal Christmas affair, and I think that sounds like a good time, and honestly very different than anything else that I'm going to be reading this month. And that is what I have for you. That is my December TBR. Those are some of my goals for 2026, and I am excited. I'm a little bit nervous. I've never really been intentional in this way when it comes to reading and content and enjoying my books in a different way than I'm used to, but in a way that I feel will be more fulfilling to me. And I'm hoping that I can bring you guys along on this journey, and maybe in a year from now we'll see me being able to talk about books in a way that I feel is more intellectual than I have talked about books in the past. Often I feel that I can't get my thoughts into words. I feel like I'm thinking about my books intellectually, but when it comes to translating that and telling you guys about it, I find that a little difficult. Part of that is just the nerves being on camera. So Vlogmas is a great chance to sort of get over those butterflies and see what we can accomplish together. So thank you for being here today. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did and you want to continue on this Vlogmas journey with me, be sure to subscribe to my channel and we can do some reading together, and give this video a like, and maybe check out yesterday's video if you haven't watched that, and I will see you tomorrow in the next one.